Hey guys, Carl here, Cultivate with Carl, and it's time for a garden update. It's been a couple weeks. I know I said on my last video it'd only be 2 weeks, but it's been more like 3, not quite a month. And what's been going on in that time is heat. So it is the, let me see, this gotta be the 20th. It's a Sunday of August, and it is 9 o'clock in the morning, and it is 96 with a heat index of 106. So it has been like that nonstop since my last video. There was one day we lucked out and got a rainstorm come through, and it knocked it down into the 70s, which pretty much felt like fall was setting on. And then within the next 2 days, we were back into the hundreds. And for those of you who are in the northern climates and you don't have humidity, it's like being in a swimming pool without being in a swimming pool. So, my neighbor's mowing, so we make a little lawnmower noise. It has definitely had an effect on the garden. I can tell you, I decided early on that I was going to get out of the summer garden cycle because I just couldn't see fighting 100-degree weather all the time. So what I did was I set my irrigation systems to water every 2 days. And they're watering at nighttime. And I think I told you about that in the last video. But you can see the heat has stunted the growth on my plants. This is okra. The sunflowers never came up. And then you have a mixture of squash and corn back there. And the squash pretty much lays over and dies during the day. At night, it cools down, the water hits it, it perks up. And then we go back into the cycle. I haven't had a single squash plant yet. In the back, the peppers are loving the heat, though they are not producing a lot of peppers. I had more peppers when it was cooler, and that was my jalapenos and my shishitos and my gypsy peppers over there, which are actually pretty good, by the way. But so that's it. I mean, there's nothing been going on, which is really why I haven't been posting videos. This heat has been tremendous. And basically it boils down to that there's a high pressure. I think I said before we were in a La Nina year, but we are in an El Nino year, which means that right over the center of the country, right around Kansas, there's a giant high pressure that's pushing all the weather in the jet stream south of us. And so that means that we're not getting a lot of rain. We're not getting hurricanes, thank goodness. The tropical systems are just starting to fire up, but anything that they produce will be pushed south of us into southern Texas, Mexico, and hopefully we'll be spared for the year. And as long as that high pressure sits there, we're going to end up with this kind of heat. Where does that leave me in gardening? Well, I'm on a hiatus. It's starting to, we're going to cool down here before too long. And Ruby is climbing up my leg. What are you doing, Ruby? I'm on a hiatus, but fall is right around the corner, and the temperatures will drop. And being that I'm in Zone 9A on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, 2 blocks from the beach, I will get enough time to grow between now and December. And that's a wonderful thing. You know, being an El Nino year, they're saying the early forecast for this winter is going to be a little harsh, but our winter in Mississippi on the coast doesn't really even start until January, February. So, and it's very intense and very short. Nothing compared to Grand Forks, North Dakota, but you know, we might have to pull the jacket out for a week or two. Yeah. One of the things that I'm going to try this fall is I'm going to try a limited run of tomatoes, and then I'm going to try to get some currants or gooseberries started in pots. Now, I ran into gooseberries on a charcuterie board at work. And if you're from the South, that is a charcuterie board. But they were different than anything that I've ever eaten. It looked like a cherry tomato, but it tasted like an orange. And it was pretty fantastic. And I did a little look into history, and they used to run wild in the 1800s, and then there was an effort by the government to eradicate them because they carried a blight that affected white pine trees. And at the whole time, at the time in the country, the white pine was the primary pine used for construction, and so they made this decision to wipe them out. So they were sold for pies and jams, and I really just enjoyed eating them like it is. So I got right online, and I found a couple of plants started in New Hampshire, and I've been growing them in the house. They're about, I keep looking over because they're on the back porch now. They're about a foot and a half tall now, and I'm going to try them in the shade. And I have an area around the corner where the sweet potatoes are that I can put the pots, and they won't get direct sunlight. And then when it starts getting cooler, I will bring them into the house over the winter, so that way I can keep them. All right, Squirrel Patrol, go find something to do. Anyway, so that'll be a big thing. If I can get those going down here. Now, there is somebody over in Carrier, Mississippi, that is selling currant seeds online. So I'm assuming that they're growing them in Carrier, which is toward Louisiana, just a little bit north. And I got seeds from them for next year. And I'll try some of that too. So the other plans for the fall are going to be, you see, I got the potato pots back out. And I would like to say that's because I'm starting potatoes, but what's happened is the Squirrel Patrol World Tour has started, and the dachshunds discovered their gene for digging and have been escaping the yard on a pretty regular basis. The neighbors, you know, Matt and the back have been entertaining them. I met some new neighbors because of the dogs, and they had taken the dogs all the way to the vet for the microchips. Always get your dogs chipped. And the vet called me, but I was sleeping because I work midnights again. And when I woke up, of course, I've had to go retrieve the dogs. And they're just having a good old time on the old Squirrel Patrol World Tour. There's no telling where they'll end up next. So I had to bring the potato pots back out to line the fence. You know, well, you gotta love them, right? You know? I think that's about it. So the one thing I've learned here, all right, come here, Ruben. Ugh. Don't get on the microphone. Hang on. Ugh. There we go. So the one thing that I have learned about summers, hang on, let me do this. Okay, so the one thing I have learned about summers, if I want to be successful in this kind of heat, is that I'm going to have to use some shade cloth. Everyone that I've seen online in this zone who's been successful has put up shade cloth. And I think that warrants some experimentation for me. Is I'll go ahead and add the infrastructure to the beds, which basically some poles on each corner. And then you get the shade cloth, and there's these little clamps that you buy that clamp into the shade cloth, and that way you can tie them up and drape them at an angle or whatever you need to shade your beds. And I think that's gonna be a winner. So since the South, we're always gonna have an abundance of heat. If I want to grow in the summer, I think shade cloth tents is probably the way to go. So, okay, and last but not least, soil. This heat has been beating up my soil pretty bad, and it's been pretty much baking it. Sustained real temperatures of 95, 98, 100 every single day. I don't think I could keep the soil moist. If I kept it watered all the time. I haven't mulched probably as well as I should have, but I think that in the winter here, what I'm going to have to do is contact my source, Mr. Howard, for some horse manure again. I've pretty much almost run out of compost, and I think what I'm going to need to do is refurb the beds with a lot of manure. And I think I'm going to have to go back to wood chips as a mulch, because wood chips as a mulch, I've found they insulate better than hay or leaves. And I think I'll just have to deal with it. So the problem that I was having with the wood chips is every time you dug a hole to put a plant in, the wood chips would fall in. Wood chips on the surface are good. They don't steal nitrogen except for that thin layer where they touch the dirt. If the wood chips get into your dirt, they will suck the nitrogen out of your soil on some scale, so that they can break down. They need the nitrogen to break down, and then they re-release the nitrogen back into your soil as they break down. you end up with a deficit of nitrogen while this stuff is breaking down. So, okay, so I'll have to deal with that. That means I'll probably have to add some extra nitrogen in. And then I'm going to try and get into feeding, foliar feeding through the irrigation system. But that's a video for another day. So this is Carl, and I think that's it. Squirrel Patrol, Cape Artist, dry, heat. These are my first time with the corn. I don't think the corn's going to do well. I've been feeding it, I've been watering it, but this is all I've got. So luckily here, you know, in the south, I can start one more round of corn before it's over. So you'll be seeing me pick up videos probably in about 2 weeks this time, seriously, because September will come. The night temperatures will drop, which will make it better for the plants. The day temperatures will drop, which makes it better for me. I'm a day sleeper while I'm on midnight shift. So if I'm not out here very first thing in the morning or last thing in the afternoon during the middle of the day, I'm trying to sleep. So really good for avoiding the heat, really bad for my air conditioner bill, just letting you know. But I think that's it. How are you doing? How's your garden doing? So why don't you throw a comment down below and see how, let me know how your garden's doing. Are you using shade cloth? You know, is it working out for you? What kind of things are you going to be growing this fall? You know, if you're in zone 9A, you know, we got to make the use of what we got. And, you know, my spring, I can't complain about my spring at all. I had tomatoes. I was giving tomatoes away to everybody. I was very excited. I had, didn't get a lot of cucumbers. They didn't pop, but my string beans popped. Potatoes, I still got potatoes in the house. And then my pepper plants did really, really well. So I'm very happy with the spring. Summer, we got licked. All right, we're going to fall back, regroup in the fall, and then see what else we can get going into our short but fun winter. So there you have it. So I'm Carl. If you haven't found me on Instagram yet, look me up on Instagram, because on Instagram, when I'm not posting videos on YouTube, I'm usually throwing up a post or two about what's going on Instagram. So like if the Squirrel Patrol does something, you know, if I got a cute picture of the Squirrel Patrol, or I might see a deer at work, or, you know, I might get a super tomato or something, I'll throw that up on Instagram. But it's Cultivate with Carl on Instagram also. So I don't have any other media, social media, except for that. So look me up there. Stay here on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe. And check back in about 2 weeks. If you turn that notification bell on, then it'll just pop up when I put my next video up. You won't have to look for me. But there we go. In the middle of a heat wave, Zone 9A, Mississippi Gulf Coast, it's Carl from Cultivate with Carl, and I'm signing off.